Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work. Place to go.
Dan Patrick.
The Danettes, aside from Paulie, are on location at their homes. Paulie, protected by glass here.
Seton.
Is that a den?
Yeah, in my house we call it the music room.
Fritzi.
I'm looking out to some light snow falling in the backyard.
McLovin.
Brooklyn jackhammering. Construction's going on.
This is the Dan Patrick Show. Taking advantage of this time without sports to ask the important questions.
Joe Buck back on the program with us. Rank your kids, because you told me this privately, like favorite to least favorite.
One looks like my baby picture. One looks like Michelle's baby picture. So I'll let you guess which one of those two, at least through almost 2 years of life, is my favorite.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave, this is Dan Patrick.
Yep, still here. Hour one on this Thursday. Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. Yours truly here in the Man Cave, along with Paulie, Fritzi at his crib, McLovin at his apartment in Brooklyn, and Seton at his home as well. Hope we're a distraction. Hope we're entertaining. And glad you're part of the program. A variety of ways you can join us. If you want to dial us up, Marvin is taking over the duty. Mario got promoted, by the way. It was a quiet promotion. He got promoted to, he was senior breakfast coordinator for a little while. And then answered phones. Now he's moved on to social media clips, and he's the one responsible for the terrible seating. I mean, the seating in the Meat Madness bracket. So Mario got promoted. Marvin, he is now taking over the duties of answering the phones there. So Marvin is standing by. Operators are standing by at 877-3DP Show. Email address, dp@danpatrick.com, and Twitter handle @DP Show. Handling the Twitter account, that is Tyler, the moderator. Was Tyler the creator. He's now Tyler, the moderator there. And then we had Dylan, who used to get breakfast, who's now doing graphics because we don't get breakfast anymore. The big German kid is the director of the TV portion of this program. Yep, it's easy to move up. Yes, Todd.
Does Marv know how to flirt with the guests like I do? I'm missing that little interaction that I would normally have when I'm handling the guest hotline. How's it going, tough guy? And all that kind of stuff.
No.
How you living, Tony Dungy? He's not doing that.
Yes, Paulie.
Like we would have on John Smoltz and Fritzi, hey, Spartan, when John Smoltz called in, even though he didn't actually go to Michigan State University. Yeah. Or, hey, crafty left-hander.
Yeah. You always had, like, there was a scene in The Office where Pam's job was to intercept what Michael was going to say to whoever was calling, because he was going to say something stupid, just to start out. And then she'd say, he's not on the line yet, Michael. So that's what we need. We need the buffer so you don't say when somebody calls up, hey, good looking.
Hey, Rick Neuheisel's office.
Yeah.
We don't like that.
Rick Neuheisel will join us coming up, and he has graced us with some great songs down through the years, the CBS Sports college football analyst. I wanted to get his take on the situation going on with these quarterbacks right now. And also, I don't know what this song is about, but he's been great. And Born in the SEC was one of the great ones that he did. Michael Wilbon, he's been a grumpy old man. ESPN has these rankings. They're the best college basketball player of all time. And look, when it first came out that Monday after the Sunday night where they revealed it, I just was in a bad mood. I told you I was in a bad mood. I'm past it now, at least I thought I was, until Shaquille O'Neal just moved past Lou Alcindor into the next round. Come on. Now, is this the public voting on this? I guess it's an open vote, but Shaq wasn't even good as Christian Laettner in college. Shaq would vote for Kareem. It's not a popularity contest. That's why I take great pride in this audience, because you're smart. And when I was at SportsCenter, you guys were smart. Since I left, that audience just not as smart, apparently. There is no doubt who's the greatest college basketball player of all time. It's Lou Alcindor. There's no argument. The only argument is who's the second best player. No argument whatsoever. But Wilbon is railing on the fact that Shaq moved past Lou Alcindor. So we'll talk to Wilbon about a variety of things. The commissioner of Major League Baseball, it would have been opening day today. gave his scenarios for the 2020 season. We'll have that for you coming up. The Cowboys and Dak Prescott are chatting again. You know what's amazing? I told you a couple of weeks ago, a source said Dak wants a 3-year deal because Dak wants to capitalize on 3 years at about $35 million, then go back into the marketplace and get another big deal. So he wants to get a 3-year and then he wants his 5-year deal, not the other way around. Because who knows what that salary is going to be for a starting quarterback, an elite quarterback by then. He wants 3 years. Cowboys offered 5. Now they've budged and gone to 4. That's why the Cowboys and Dak Prescott's agent are talking again. At least that's what I was told. But I think Dak will settle at 3 or 4 years at $35 million probably, and then he'll be back in the marketplace to get another deal. But he wanted 3, and now it looks like he'll move up to 4. But the Cowboys and Dak Prescott are chatting. Let me see. A couple of things that I wanted to bring to your attention. I mentioned it's supposed to be opening day for Major League Baseball, and all 30 teams were on the schedule. And it would have been great to see Max Scherzer versus Jason DeGrom, Mookie Betts, his debut with the Dodgers. Instead, the season is suspended indefinitely because of the coronavirus. Now, keep in mind, baseball played a full schedule even during World War II. But now you had a lot of players who signed up for the military. Ted Williams famously did. Bob Feller. I mean, there were a lot of great players who signed up, and they were actually in combat. They were in battle. That's when Joe Nuxall became the youngest player to ever play in a Major League Baseball game. He was 15 years, 9 months, the left-hander. But they continued to play baseball during World War II. But that gives you an idea of how devastating this pandemic is affecting sports. And even if baseball isn't the true national pastime, the symbolism of opening day is really important because, you know, it's the start of spring. It signifies hope and optimism, and every team feels like, hey, we got a chance maybe this year. And hopefully Major League Baseball will be able to salvage something this year. And if not, we'll look forward to next year. But baseball has been resilient, very resilient. You know, they survived a lot of scandals here. There was the cocaine scandal back in the 70s and 80s. You had the players' strikes. You had steroids. We've been through a lot with Major League Baseball. But this disruption is tough on everybody, including the word disruption. But hope and optimism will return, not only in baseball, but in the real world as well. Here is the commissioner of Major League Baseball, Rob Manfred. He was on with Scott Van Pelt on SportsCenter last night. And he's optimistic the season will start maybe in a little more than a month.
My optimistic outlook is that at some point in May, we'll be gearing back up. We'll have to make a determination, depending on what the precise date is, as to how much of a preparation period we need, whether that preparation period is going to be done in the club's home cities or back in Florida and Arizona. And again, I think the goal would be to get to as many regular season games as possible and think creatively about how we can accomplish that goal.
Gearing back up was the key phrase in there. That doesn't mean you start. You're gearing back up. And we talked to Dave Roberts and Joe Madden, Clayton Kershaw. They all talked about you're probably going to need another spring training to get ready. Therefore, you're talking about maybe June 1st. Maybe. Best case scenario. And then you're looking at maybe a 144-game schedule at the most. Maybe it's less. Maybe it's 100 games. Scott Boras, the great agent, says he has given baseball 2 proposals. One involving a 162-game season. That starts June 1st. Another 144-game season starting July 1st. Both the proposals have baseball playing through December 26th. He's got it all mapped out. Scott Boras told the LA Times, it's workable. We've done the climate studies. Now, Scott wants to make sure his guys who make the most money in baseball get paid. More games, more paychecks. He said the average temperature in December is 67 degrees, which is better than late March and early April in most cities. We have 11 stadiums that we could play postseason games in. I'm going to get my neutral site World Series after all. 11 stadiums. There are 8 domed stadiums, 3 in Southern California. Boras has advocated for a neutral site World Series for some time now. And does not want the idea that's been floating for the 81-game season to start July 1st because less games equals less money for his clients. Now, I do have an issue with this. Scott's a very smart guy. Probably spent a lot of time with this and his staff. Fans, it's tough for fans to go to some of these ballparks to begin with. And now you're going to say to somebody, hey, you want to go see a game in Boston in November? New York, the Yankees are going to be good this year. How about Chicago in November? Boy, that'll be pleasant. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Minneapolis, Baltimore, D.C., Colorado. Now, I know what Scott Boras wants to do. He wants to front load the schedules where the games that would be in these cities would be played in June, July, and August. Therefore, when we got to October and November, we would be playing those games in warmer weather cities. But that's just the possibilities that Scott Boras has put out there. And if we're going to have baseball, I don't need baseball in December. You know, Scott wants to get his, guys paid. I understand that. How about we do what's best for the game? Best for the fans? How about 100 games? Let's start with 100. I don't think anybody's going to be upset. If you say, hey, you get 100 games right now, we'll take any. Like the hardcore fans, the purists are going to say, oh, it's not a true baseball season. Okay, so what? Get over it. 100 games? Okay. Why don't we start with something that's realistic instead of you just looking at what's going to benefit your clients? If you do 100 games, do you have four-man rotation? Now baseball is predicated on how you handle your pitching staff. That's the sport. And if you have 100 games, now are you trotting out your ace every fourth day? How are you handling your rotation? How are you handling your bullpen? That would be interesting to see. But it would be opening day, and I don't think we're going to have baseball anytime soon. Probably July, but that's just a guess. If you're looking at a month for training camp, like when do we even get back? When do we even talk about the possibility of getting back? And then you have a month, or at least an abbreviated spring training where it's 3 weeks there. But best case scenario, feels like you're talking July. And if you want to go a little bit later on into November, okay. I don't need Christmas Day baseball. I don't. I enjoy my NBA on Christmas Day, maybe a college football game.
The blue-gray game.
Yeah, like the Astro Blue Bonnet Bowl or something. Like, I don't care. I don't need baseball on December 26th. Then we're going to have a Mr. December.
Oh.
Yeah, somebody's going to be Mr. December, at least for 1 year. All right. You can watch the program on youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show. Fritzi, I believe, is going to be cooking. And
how about that?
And I don't know if you cooked a meal before, but you're going to do it on live TV today.
You know what? Last night I made some shake and bake coating mixed chicken. It came out. I had carrots, and I'm trying to eat healthy. You've been very supportive of me doing that and dropping some pounds and eating better, not having pizza and Chinese food every day. So I had carrots, boiled potatoes, did some baked chicken. I did sneak a little slice of pizza that the kids were eating.
No, you can't. No, you can't do that.
Just one. It was like a small.
No,
piece.
but you can't.
I know, but it wasn't like a New York or a deep dish thing. It was like one of those like little triangles that they, when you cut it for like the little kids' party.
You just ruined all the good. Yeah, it's over. You ruined all of that good by one bad.
With some Gatorade fruit punch.
What did I tell you?
Wash it down.
What did I tell you? Walking
water.
and water.
Lots and lots of water.
Lots of water and a lot of walking.
Keep the kidney stones away.
Yes.
Keep a bowel obstruction.
Yes, that's my goal.
That's what we got to do.
Yeah,
we're going to do it.
That's my goal.
We are going to do it.
All right. Yeah, Paul.
Dan, we're journalists here. The I-Team has a quick question for Todd. You said you made dinner for the family last night, just to clarify?
I can't say I made dinner for the family. Jen took care of the pizza for her and the kids, and I went off the board and took some chicken out of the fridge and dipped it in the bag with the breadcrumbs, the Parmesan crusted, whatever that thing is, and I shook it and I put it in the oven for like a half hour, and it was really, I felt like I was doing the right thing, and it was healthy, and it made my digestive system feel better and everything.
How about no shake and bake? Just chicken.
Is that bad? The shake and bake?
Yeah.
It's got to give it a little flavor.
Yeah.
Baby
I'll
steps.
be totally miserable then. You can't just have like plain
all right. Okay.
nothing on it.
All right. I'm glad that you're trying. I'm very proud of you. You got to eat
I'm feeling
right.
a lot better.
I'm very proud of you.
Things are passing a lot easier.
No.
You don't need that.
That's good. TMI.
Sorry.
Yep. That's all good.
Too much TMI.
Dan Patrick Show brought to you by True Car. Shoppers can save an average of over $3,500 off MSRP. See what other people paid for the vehicle you want. The new True Car. Buy smarter. Drive happier. We'll see if McLovin's got a poll question or two. A couple of interesting things. An interesting list on the greatest dynasties of all time. I saw this with Sporting News. And you know how I feel about list. It's meant to have us yell at each other. But in this time of need, I'm okay with the list today. Normally, I'm like, oh, I hate these lists. I'll unveil it coming up. So we'll talk some football with Rick Neuheisel. Is he still all in on Joe Burrow? He said he's a more athletic Tom Brady. I talked to somebody last night who shocked me in what they think Tom Brady is going to do this year. How about that? Got your attention, didn't I?
Nice, Greenie.
Yes, that's Mike Greenberg would approve of that tease. All right, we'll take a break here. Coming up on 19 after the hour, a lot to get to. Glad you're part of the program. Dan and the Danettes, Dan Patrick Show. More than any other item in a man's closet, a good pair of high-quality cowboy boots actually makes you feel something. You put them on, you feel a little more confident. You feel a little taller. I don't know, that confidence from the ground up that you get, that when you put on a pair of shoes, that's what you get with your Tecovas. It's spelled Tecovas, and you don't need to kick down doors, but you could if you wanted to. Tecovas kept all the traditions worth keeping. The style, for example, more traditional than other Western brands because the timeless classic look is what generations of men who have gone before have worn. Handsome style boots, they've been on many frontiers, and so can you. And when you think of the Western boots, they have a deep American history. They can be experienced by more men everywhere. Whether it's your first pair or next pair, they're made by master bootmakers from the finest quality materials. You're going to see and feel that craftsmanship in the details of everything Tecovas makes. Find your pair, your first pair, next pair at tecovas.com/DP. Tecovas, tecovas.com/DP.
We have an exciting day planned. The guys at DC United said, come on down to the practice field, kick it around, and bonus coverage. Not only did they lend us these kits, we got to give them back.
Do we really?
Got to give them back. Wayne Rooney is going to be here today to knock the ball around.
Here.
They said, like,
Soccer player, Wayne Rooney?
They said a guy named Wayne Rooney would definitely be here today.
Okay, so what are we doing?
Well, if Wayne Rooney's coming here, we got to get loose, like the real soccer players do. There you go. Get it loose.
Broadway show thing.
You sure this is how they do it?
I saw it.
Are you sure about that?
Saw it on TV. Time to stop some shots.
There you go.
Does DC United wear plaid shorts?
Hit it right to him.
Let's see it. You ready for a goal? Ah.
Oh.
Nice.
Hold on. Now, this is interesting. A guy I know with MLS said they're experimenting with this next season. 2 guys shoot against 2 guys.
There you go.
So this is a tough one, 1-on-3. My close personal friend Landon Donovan told me 2 things. Never look up and choose where you're going when you're doing a penalty kick. He also told me to lose his number and to never play soccer.
Oh, nice. Got it?
That was a smoker.
Oh my
Caught my finger.
Oh!
That's a broken wrist. That bruised my right wrist, and it's going to be a very lonely night for me. Very quick shower tonight. I don't know, they're rushing the
rushing the quarterback.
That's rarely used in
That is
MLS.
that's a very rare strategy.
We are doing some spring cleaning. DP Show gear. You guys have taken us up on the offer. Hopefully you'll be able to get your gear. $10 T-shirts, $15 baseball hats. Save up to 65% off. We got free shipping. You spend $50 or more. Plus, Tampa Bay fans got some really nice new T-shirts there. Go to the danpatrick.com website and check them out. All right. I got this text last night. This is somebody who... I don't even want to give you a hint of who they're affiliated with, but they're in a pretty good position.
Bruce Arians.
No, not Bruce Arians. And he's in an important role in the NFL, let's put it that way. Over/under games played for TB in 20, ? That's how the texts start. And I went, what? And this came in at 11:12 last night, East Coast time. Thought was last year he was very stiff and statuesque in the pocket. Have my doubts. I said over/under games played. I threw out 12, and I think that my source would take the under on that with Brady, because you don't have a good line, and statuesque is not like a woman can be statuesque. I don't want my quarterback being statuesque. But that was what I got last night. McLovin, what kind of poll question do you have for me today?
Okay, so today marks the 47th anniversary of UCLA winning 7 straight titles. Now, the next closest streak in college basketball, 2 titles.
Florida.
Just to give you an idea.
Yeah,
so we were wondering, is UCLA the most dominant dynasty of all time? And I was thinking we could put up some options. It's kind of up for us to come up with which teams belong on that list.
Well, I saw this on Sporting News. I believe Sporting News had this. The top 15 dynasties of all time. If I say dynasty, first team that comes to mind, dynasty, is interesting. And how do you define dynasty? Because it feels like the Patriots are a modern day dynasty. Dynasty, for me, was what are you doing over a span of 5 years, 7 years, maybe 10 years at the most? Because it's, the Patriots are always in the playoffs. I think they missed it once with Brady there. They've been in 9 Super Bowls in a span of, 19 years?
Yeah, but they also had a 9-year run where they didn't win a Super Bowl. from 2005 till 2014, they didn't win a Super Bowl. They'd appeared in a few, but they didn't win one. So they had a 9-year gap in that dynasty.
Golden State is 15th on here from 2014 to present. All right. That was a dominating period that they have and a juggernaut, but there's a brief interruption there in their dynasty. 14 is the Green Bay Packers, 60 through 67. I just remember them in the first 2 Super Bowls. I know the Cleveland Browns were on equal footing with the Packers. Probably the Colts were as well, but in the Rams, the Packers, 60 through 67. The Steelers, 72 through 79. That's as good a defense as I've ever seen. And you also throw in a Hall of Fame coach and all those Hall of Famers on offense. I mean, it felt like this. It was who was going to face the Steelers. Now, the Cowboys were really good back then as well. The LA Lakers, 79 through 91. They won 5 titles, made the NBA Finals 9 of those 12 seasons. But that also, is it a dynasty? Because there were years where they weren't the best team, where the Celtics were. But they were always there. The Niners of 81 through 94. You had the West Coast offense with Bill Walsh. You had Joe Montana. You had Steve Young. They won 5 Super Bowls, including back-to-back. Edmonton Oilers with Gretzky 82 to 90. The New York Islanders were a dynasty before the Oilers were. The Montreal Canadiens they're number 9 on the list, 52 through 60. The Yankees of 96 to 2003. Now, that feels like a dynasty in the true sense of what a dynasty is. It was 96 through 2003, and they went to the World Series 6 times in that period, 4 titles, and they three-peated 98 to 2000. And they had the core that stayed with them. UConn women's basketball, 1994 to now. They've won 11 titles under Gino Auriemma since 1994. They made it to the Final Four 18 of 19 years. That's a dynasty. That's number 7 on the list. Alabama football, 2007 to the present. 5 national titles in the last 10 years under Nick Saban. 5 straight appearances in the college football playoff. All right. The Boston Celtics, 56 through 69. Celtics won 11 titles in 13 years. They won 8 straight, 59 to 66. Let's see what else. The Yankees in 49 through 56. They won 5 consecutive World Series titles, and then they skipped a couple of years, and then they won another one in 56. The Chicago Bulls are 3rd on the list, 91 through 98. If Jordan doesn't play baseball, that might be your quintessential dynasty, because it might have been 8 of 8. UCLA basketball, 64 through 75. UCLA won 10 titles in 12 years, including 7 in a row. The last one coming on this day, 1972-73, when Bill Walton went 21 of 22 from the floor, and they won the national title. In fact, I think Bill missed more free throws than field goals. I think for some reason he was 21 of 22 and 2 of 5 from the line. UCLA winning the national title against Memphis. New England Patriots are number 1 on the list. 2001 to the present. 6 Super Bowls since 2001. Two decades of dominance here. The Patriots have reached the AFC Championship game 13 of 18 times in each of the last 8 seasons. Yeah. But you have the 9-year gap, which you know I can nitpick with that. But what is a dynasty? I think that's how you define it. I always looked at UCLA. That was a dynasty. The Celtics, 11 out of 13 seasons, won an NBA championship. And I know that, we're about today. Nobody wants to look back in the 50s, 60s, even 70s. It's all about today. But UConn women's basketball, that's a dynasty. I mean, I don't know if anybody can make that claim of dominating from 94 to now. Yeah, Paulie.
Is it fair to say the term is watered down? If you win 2 of 3, that's enough to get that word thrown about you in any sport?
Yeah.
Look, we have a dynasty. This team won 2 of 3 titles.
Yeah. I think with Golden State, we looked at that. LeBron James is a dynasty unto himself. Doesn't he play in the NBA Finals, 9 years in a row? Also on this day, Magic Johnson, Michigan State, against Larry Bird in Indiana State, and Magic winning that title. McLevin, yes.
The Celtics from the 50s and 60s seems low at 5. I mean, 11 of 13, that's way better than the Patriots.
Yeah. But it's recency bias where, and the definition of a dynasty is different because you did have a lapse in there with New England. But, it's hard to argue what they've done recently. Seton?
Well, I mean, I think the Patriots, if you're a fan of another team in the AFC, it certainly feels like the Patriots were running over you just about every year.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, even in that lapse where they had down years, they were still in the Super Bowl a couple times. So, I mean, I get it. Is there a difference between a dynasty and a good run?
Well, what would be a good run?
The Golden State. That's a good run.
Yeah, I don't look at that as a dynasty. Like that wasn't as sustainable as you would want. The early 90s Cowboys, that was a good run. But, I think you got to do something more than 3 years or 4 years. I think if you're looking at a dynasty, 5 to 10 year period. Yes, Todd.
I'd say Red Sox, a good run versus dynasty would be another example of recent years. They won a few, but they weren't constantly winning world titles recently.
Yeah, Paul.
So we did the Hall of Fame, and we did the Hall of Very Good. Remember, we invented that for players. We should do a list of the best good runs of all time. They didn't qualify for dynasties.
Well, if you look at that list, who would be under, aside from Golden State? Golden State was a good run. Cowboys were a good run. They didn't make that list, though.
San Francisco Giants? Didn't they have a really good run about 6 years ago?
That would have been a good run. That would have been a good, because they would win every other year. But that would be a good run. Some of these other, UCLA basketball, that was a dynasty. Celtics basketball, dynasty. The Patriots had, it feels like, a couple of good runs. Now, you can say they sustained excellence, and maybe that's what that falls into your definition of that. But who else is on that list that might be just a good run here? UCLA, the Patriots, Yankees. Cincinnati Reds in the 70s were a good run, but that's not a dynasty. Celtics in there. UConn basketball, that's a dynasty. Alabama football, is that a dynasty?
Yeah, dynasty. In these days?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, in these days. The Yankees, 96 to 2003, that's a dynasty. The Niners, a 13-year period. Edmonton was a dynasty with Gretzky. Let's see who else. The Lakers, 79 to 91. Packers, that was a dynasty. Steelers, a dynasty. Yeah, it depends on your definition there. If you got some thoughts on this, calls are welcome, 877-3DP Show. Nick in San Diego. Hi, Nick. Welcome back. What do you have for me?
Oh, morning. What are we doing today?
Good, sir. Good, sir.
I got two things for you. First thing, you guys are leaving off the greatest dynasty of all time, and that would be the Harlem Globetrotters. The Generals just never stood a chance.
Yeah.
They won every single game.
Yeah, fair. Fair point.
But the other thing is, we have a little bit, as the unofficial PR guy for Chat Row, we have a little bit of a controversy going on in here. We have you heard of the crawling, Dan? Are you familiar? Basically, Nick Lovin's wife crawling right now across the screen last week. Anything on that?
I think, what was it, your wife who crawled through the screen or your daughter?
It was my wife.
Your wife
She was crawling behind me.
Well, we can see
she was off. I know.
Just tell her to walk past.
I know. It was. Did you see it yet? Because I've only seen stills.
I didn't want to bring it up. I didn't want to embarrass Sarah. So
No, she laughed at it.
Okay.
She's fine.
Yeah, Paulie.
It looked like an episode of Dateline where it's the last thing he ever saw. And because there's like a woman crawling in the background and McLovin's nonchalantly talking sports on his webcam. This was the last image we ever saw of him.
I saw it. I didn't want to say anything. But yes, your wife, you know when you see those Marine Corps commercials where they're like crawling on their hands and knees, the few, the proud, and that she was like practicing for, she was a mudder.
She was just getting pretzels for one of the kids. I was like, honey, nobody cares if you walk behind this screen.
No.
In fact, it'd probably make this screen look a lot better.
Yeah, more of your wife than you. That would be beneficial.
Totally.
I thought it might have been your daughter because I just see like right in the back. You just see it's almost like the Loch Ness monster. Like you're not sure you saw it or Sasquatch. You're like, wait, what just happened there? And then I didn't bring it up. Yes, Eaton.
I love that it's being referred to as the crawling, by the way.
I know. That's a good job by Nick. Good job, the crawling. How about Iowa wrestling as a dynasty? Oh, Dan Gable. Oh,
Dan Gable.
Yeah, you could look at that. I don't know what those numbers are, but Iowa wrestling, I would say that probably falls into the dynasty category there. Yes, Paulie?
Dan Gable was such a big deal growing up wherever you lived for wrestling. If you didn't have Dan Gable Asics wrestling shoes, you couldn't really show up. Even like a guy like me who completely stunk at wrestling, I had to have the Dan Gable shoes.
There were people who wore the wrestling shoes who didn't wrestle. That's how popular Dan Gable was.
Do you know he used to wear Dan Gable wrestling shoes? David Letterman used to wear them on the air with a double-breasted suit, and he'd wear Dan Gable wrestling shoes. And people are like, what is he wearing?
Ryan in Delaware joins us. Good morning, Ryan. What do you have?
Hey, DP, 6 foot 255. Thank you. I was just going to throw out for the recent dynasties. You got the Chicago Blackhawks run. They had from about 2010 till.
That's a good run. That's a good run. I don't consider that a dynasty. But thank you, Ryan. Yeah, you have it has to be a little bit more than 3 years or 4 years, it feels like, for a dynasty. Or what you did over those 4 years, like how much did you dominate? But for me, in my definition, a dynasty is something that's sustainable, not broken up by a few years, and then you pick back up where you were. Patriots are a dynasty. When you look at the NFL, having that kind of success over that amount of time and this recent success, that's a dynasty. But the other stuff, UCLA basketball, like nobody, you thought UCLA, and who are they playing in the national title game every year? Boston Celtics, it was who they were going to face in the NBA Finals with Bill Russell. They, at one point, I believe, had 8 Hall of Famers on the roster. The Boston Celtics did. And that might have been a year that they lost in NBA Finals. But they, I think, at one point had 8 Hall of Famers on there. Reggie in Mississippi. Hi, Reg. What do you have for me today?
Hey, Dan, thanks for having me. Long time listener. Listen, what about speaking of dynasties, what about your Big Red Machine, Cincinnati Reds from the 70s? Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah. That was a good run because they ended up losing. They lost to the Orioles. They lost to the Oakland A's. They went back-to-back, beat the Red Sox and the Yankees. That's a good run, but that's not a dynasty. Yeah, Paulie.
They're really close, though. The Reds appeared in 4 World Series in 7 years, and culturally, they were very well known. You didn't have to live in Cincinnati to know about the players because they had so many famous guys.
Yeah, but even a Cincinnati fan, I would say that was a good run. If they would have beaten Baltimore or Oakland, then you could make a case for that. Yeah, Paulie.
I know this is a bigger topic, and I want you to think about it. Want me to say my question?
Yeah. All right. We'll take a break. Play of the day coming up next. More phone calls as well. We have some more Meat Madness songs. We have the Kansas City region, and we'll have those for you coming up. Rick Neuheisel is bringing his guitar, his appearance coming up next hour. He's got a song for us. I'm not sure if it's college football related, which he normally does. Maybe he's got a Meat Madness song for us. Who knows with Neuheisel? And a little bit later on, Michael Wilbon, grumpy guy, will yell at you to get off his lawn. That's coming up here on the Dan Patrick Show. Yes, I was up in the attic yesterday. This was not a good hair day for me, but this is a little promo we did for SportsCenter with Jerome Bettis, who I eventually beat in a race, 50-yard dash. I was at a convention, and I'm on stage with Bill Russell, Joe Montana, Ahmad Rashad, John Elway, Willie Mays, and Bobby Hull. What am I doing up there? I was basically the moderator, I think. But that's a pretty impressive list of great ones. And myself. I did a college basketball show on CNN. It's not any good. That's a cheesy promotional picture when we first started out 13 years ago. My hair had a nice color to it. That's as close as I ever got to beefcake. This is San Francisco declaring July 14th, 2000 as Dan Patrick and Rob Dibble Day in San Francisco. San Francisco's never been the same. The mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, this is, I guess, our day, my day. Therefore, I, Rudolph W. Giuliani, mayor of New York City, recognizing important event, hereby proclaim Monday, July 31st, 2000, City of New York is Dan Patrick Show Day. That used to be a really big deal. I had a paperback called Outtakes that made the top 15. It lasted 1 week there, but it made it there. I was a one and done before one and done. I went to play at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am twice. I'd rather show you the pictures than show you how well I played. Clint Eastwood autographed both of these. So more stuff from the attic coming up.
Play of the day. Play.
Oh my God!
The play.
The play's gonna play.
Of the day.
Runner left side, got it!
They're gonna play it and play it.
This is the play of the day. Check this out.
11. Oh, that Reed has hit 3 long. Oh, there's the pass. Look at John. It's all over. Michigan State University, national champions, 1979.
It's courtesy of NBC. Little Bob Seger, Michigan native, Silver Bullet Band. Magic Johnson scored 24, named MVP of the tournament. To this day, highest Nielsen-rated college basketball game in history. That was 1979 on this day. And Magic had Greg Kelser and Jay Vincent, who went on to be #1 draft picks. It was basically Larry Bird against Michigan State. National title play of the day brought to you by LegalZoom. Need to make it legal? Make it LegalZoom.com. Good thing LegalZoom can help. Their network of independent attorneys can answer questions and provide legal advice, help set you up in business to be successful. Learn more at LegalZoom.com. All right, some more phone calls coming up. Meat Madness. We have the Kansas City region, some more songs to bring to your attention. Paulie, you had a question for the room before we went to the commercial break.
Right off the top of your head, because we're talking about dynasties and old-time teams and so forth. If you could reverse the result of any sporting event before you got out of high school, your childhood, before you're 15, 16, 17-year-old, you could reverse the course of any one sporting event of your lifetime, which one and why?
Now, is it personal or professional?
Personal. I would think personal. The one that, it'll haunt you till the day you die, the loss by your team.
Well, my senior year.
And it could be like the Cincinnati Reds or you playing sports.
Oh, yeah. My senior year, we were one of the top seeds in the state basketball tournament, and we ended up bowing out to the damn Oakwood Lumberjacks, who played a boxing one on me, you cowards.
You're over it?
No, because I was going through the scrapbook yesterday, and I see this. Mason Comets, one of the teams to look out for, led by the sharpshooter, Mr. Outside Dan Patrick. And we go in there, and Oakwood plays a boxing one on me.
Is that Bush League?
Well, it was good strategy because you obviously got to try to shut me down, and they did. And we lost by a couple. But I'll never be over that. Never. Damn boxing one. Fritzi, you got anything that you would change?
I do. Outside of Broncos Super Bowl bad losses for it was a Little League summer game. I was pitching last inning, second and third, 2 outs. We're up by 1. I just got to get one more out. This kid, Steven Copps, comes to the plate. Supposedly, the manager was trying to get my attention to intentionally walk them and face the next guy. And I didn't get that somehow delivered my way. And I threw it as hard as I can down the middle. 2-run double, walk-off, loss. Instead of first place trophy to win by 1, we lose 1. They're all celebrating, and I feel terrible, and I blew the game by giving up a 2-run double in the bottom of the last inning.
McLevin?
Well, does betting count? Because I lost this bet on the Duquesne St. Joe's game that I always remember. But if I was going to do common games, the Eagles losing to the Raiders when I was a real little kid in that Super Bowl, the one with the Stickum with Lester Hayes.
Yeah, with Ron Jaworski as your quarterback.
Yeah, that was brutal for me. But as I recall, the game wasn't that close, right?
No, wasn't it like 27-14 or something?
Yeah, totally. And Lester Hayes had so much Stickum on him, I felt like that was cheating.
Seton? Oh, I know what you'll pick.
Do you?
Seton Hall, Michigan?
1989, for sure.
Yeah.
Seton Hall, Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the worst. Personally, though, I have 2, actually. One of them is the way the AUAA ended. I would absolutely go back and change that.
And not pass it to Mario.
And not pass it to Mario. Yeah, that for sure. But if we're going before high school, I was once in this, when I was in like 7th or 8th grade, I was on this like travel all-star team for baseball. And we were losing 7-0 going into the last inning. And the team had rallied back we were down 7-6 with bases loaded, and I was coming up 2 outs, and my coach pinch hit for me, and I kind of flipped out and threw my helmet and was like really pissed about it. And the umpire was like, no, this kid has to bat. Like, you would have had to have already pinch hit for him or whatever the rule was. So I got up, and we were down 7-6 and had this amazing comeback, and I struck out to lose the game.
No.
And I was like, you're a kid. And I'm like, yeah, it was the worst. It was probably my worst moment in sports.
Paulie, you got one?
Out.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of painful archery losses. I mostly won with there. But the 84 Cubs, they're up 2-0 over the Padres in the NLCS. I think they won the first game 13-0. They were handling the Padres. And they lost 3 straight. And the last game that they lost was the same day that Walter Payton broke the rushing record. It was one of the best and worst sports days of my life, and a lot of Chicago fans.
All right, update. Did you settle on a poll question, McLevin? Did we do the Dynasties?
I did, and I tell me if it's okay, UCLA, UConn women, Boston Celtics, New York Yankees, Chicago Bulls, and the Patriots, the recent Patriots. Anybody I'm missing that's I took that list and took the top 7, basically.
All right. I mean, I'm fine with that. How about North Dakota State football? Yeah. The Bison.
They got like 8 titles in the past 10 years.
Yeah. Yes, Todd.
I'm a Ranger fan, but no love for the Islanders of the early 80s.
I mentioned them.
Okay. They were like...
Yeah, you weren't listening.
Dominated.
Just like the coach who told you to walk the guy, you weren't listening.
He was not demonstrative enough, and I blew it.
Rick Neuheisel will join us coming up. Michael Wilbon a little bit later. More of your phone calls. One more item in the first down.
So it's fun. We worked up a sweat. I think we should kill a little more time to give Wayne a chance to get here. Wayne Rooney.
Because he's coming.
40% chance he'll be here at some point today.
So maybe he's on his way or something.
All right, how about the hiding the handball contest? Question. So this is how you hide a handball and cheat.
Yellow card.
That's a goal where I come from.
There's an injury. Didn't look like anyone touched him, but he's down.
There you go. Guys, great day. I'm needing a week to recover. What a great day. All right?
Where's Wayne, Paul?
He's in D.C. playing for the D.C.
What
United.
happened to Wayne Rooney? I thought he was coming to meet us here.
Yeah, but each time we ask Paul, it's like 60%, 50%,
They
40%
told me,
chance. What's the deal?
go to the stadium and meet Wayne Rooney, and here we are.
Yeah.
I did my part.
It's not the stadium.
No, I don't think they play here. Maybe they practice here, but there's like a brand new fancy stadium.
Maybe we
that's
should
going
go
on.
there. They'll let us in. Maybe we look like
The
players.
stadium's supposed to hold like 20,000 people. This can't be right.
Let's go there. Let's check it out.
Nice. Ronald Dorco.
The guys at KLAC, Don Martin, they gave me Robert Plant autograph. I don't know what this is officially called, but an album, and I'm a big Robert Plant fan from Zeppelin. Brad Paisley sent this to me. I was in one of his videos, Gone Fishing, and I haven't heard from Brad Paisley since then, but he gave me that. This one will be the envy of everybody. Yeah, Creed. Yeah. They sent this to me. I don't know why, but it was presented to ESPN. Maybe they didn't know my name, but I'm Mr. ESPN. So I you know what? Maybe I took this and I wasn't supposed to. It was there in the mailroom and nobody was taking it. I got to, oh, it's cracked. Oops. It says, Barry Bonds just can't keep his secrets from Dan Patrick. That's basically a lot of BS because I don't think I got anything out of Barry Bonds, but how dirty is it? Yeah, that's pretty dirty. So that's just some of the items that I have in the attic. I might go up there again. I'm getting too old to go up and down those steps, but those are just some of the things that I got. I also got some letters, which I do love getting letters. Maybe I got a patch in here. The Tonkin Golf Yacht Club.
Those are best.
30 seconds.
I don't know what... So enclosed a Tonkin Golf Yacht Club patch. They got Wikipedia page. Well, thank you. That's great. From Matt Gaffney. They sent me a Wikipedia page. Well, thanks. All right, I gotta go back and do the show. But that's another patch. Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work.
Dan Patrick. Dan Patrick.
The Danettes, aside from Paulie, are on location at their homes.
Paulie.
Protected by glass here.
Seton.
Is that a den?
Yeah, in my house we call it the music room.
Fritzi.
I'm looking out to some light snow falling in the backyard.
McLovin.
Brooklyn jackhammering. Construction's going on.
This is the Dan Patrick Show. Taking advantage of this time without sports to ask the important questions.
Joe Buck back on the program with us. Rank your kids, because you told me this privately, like favorite to least favorite.
One looks like my baby picture. One looks like Michelle's baby picture. So I'll let you guess which one of those two, at least through almost 2 years of life, is my favorite.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave, this is Dan Patrick.
Hour 2 on this Thursday. Glad you're aboard. If you're dialing in, if you're just listening, if you're watching, you're emailing, you're tweeting, hopefully we can add a little levity to your day, a distraction here. Boys are here, ready to go. A suggestion from the chat row, by the way. Paulie is in the man cave with me, and Fritzi's at home, McLovin's at home, and so is Seton. Yesterday we had a moment. It's called The Crawling, and it sounds like a Stephen King novel. McLovin's wife, Sarah, crawled across the floor behind him. She didn't want to walk into the shot. Now, the chat row is suggesting maybe tomorrow wives of the Danettes could do a segment. I don't know if you guys, if your wives would be interested in doing this, but
the crawling segment?
No, that they would be they would be on camera. A cameo appearance by the wives that's requested by the chat row. I'll let you guys negotiate that at home, but we need all in or we won't do it. But McLovin's wife has already made a cameo in the crawling. If you'd like to get in touch with the program, you can, 877-3DP Show. Email address, dp@danpatrick.com. Twitter handle at DP Show. You can watch on youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show and listen on our 362 radio affiliates around the country, including the great lineup on Fox Sports Radio. The commissioner of Major League Baseball gave a scenario for the 2020 season, maybe June 1st, but that's when he says they're going to ramp things up, and it's going to take probably 3 weeks, another spring training, to get ready for the regular season. I guess best case scenario, you might have baseball in July. Today would have been the opening day for Major League Baseball. The Cowboys and Dak Prescott are chatting again. And from what I'm told, the hang-up was the length of the deal. I think that they had settled on the amount of money. Dak Prescott's agent wanted 3 years, and then you put together 3 years, then he's back in the marketplace quicker and making more money. And the Cowboys wanted a 5-year deal. Now they may be inching closer to meeting in the middle with a 4-year contract for Dak Prescott. But probably around $35 million a year for Dak Prescott. But they're still talking. Even though he has the exclusive franchise tag, they can negotiate that. Michael Wilbon a little bit later on, and Rick Neuheisel, a former college coach, now an analyst for CBS Sports. He'll join us coming up and give us his assessment of these quarterbacks. Who is going to take a chance on Tua Tagovailoa? And if you're the Dolphins and you really want Joe Burrow, how much are you willing to give up? So we'll talk to Rick Neuheisel coming up. Eric Dickerson, the Hall of Fame running back, not pleased with the Rams logo. He came up with his own version of the logo. I like that the biggest concern of the Rams in the offseason is their damn logo. It should be that what's going on with their roster. You know, our concerns are, like, they got a stadium we don't know if it's going to be built on time. And you had to, let go of Todd Gurley, Clay Matthews Jr., and the biggest concern in Rams camp is the logo. That would be a nice concern to have if it weren't for the other concerns you should be having, but it's a nice diversion. But Eric Dickerson, who is the Rambassador for the franchise, a self-proclaimed Rambassador, he came up with his own logo for the Rams. I don't know if they needed anything, but it looks like Eric Dickerson's Ram is a little meaner than the one that the Rams trotted out a couple of days ago. But imagine I can't imagine. The Rams' concerns are not, hey, what do we do in the draft? Hey, we're got a salary cap that's bloated here. We seem to be regressing. Yeah, that logo. We got to have more meetings. We got to talk about this logo here. We got to get to the bottom of this. We also were talking about Sports Dynasties. Sporting News had the top 15 dynasties of all time. And the New England Patriots were number one in there, which, given, you've been in 9 Super Bowls in 19 years, that would constitute an NFL dynasty. But for me, a dynasty is something that is at least 5 years and, sustainable over those 5 years. And there are a lot of teams down through the years who fit into that category. I think the Celtics, who won 11 of 13, 11 in 13 years, or UCLA, that to me, they'd be hard pressed. One in the college ranks and the other one in the pros. At one point, the Celtics had 9 Hall of Famers in their lineup. One year, this might have been 62, 63, players who went on to become Hall of Famers. 9 of them. It felt like every year. I mean, it's pretty impressive. Now, these guys individually wouldn't have been Hall of Famers, but team-wise, which is what the Celtics were all about, starting with Bill Russell, Cousy and Havlicek would have been Hall of Famers elsewhere, but Satch Sanders, Casey Jones, Sam Jones, Tommy Heinsohn, Frank Ramsey probably wouldn't have been, but Russell, a Hall of Famer, Cousy, a Hall of Famer, and Havlicek, definitely a Hall of Famer if they played with other teams. The other guys were, the beauty of what they did is they were great two-way players, great team players, and the fact that you had 3 Hall of Famers on the bench, pretty incredible. Yeah, Paulie.
Based off that, you could look at the 70s Steelers dynasty, Mike Webster, Lynn Swann, John Stallworth, et cetera, Harris, Ham, Lambert, I think there's 5 or 6 more.
Yeah, but
Joe Green.
You have a 53-man roster. The Celtics had 12 guys on the roster. 8 of the 12 are Hall of Famers.
I was just saying the closest thing football-wise would probably be Mel Blount, Terry Bradshaw, that Steeler team, because they won so much, all their guys got the light shown on them, and they got a lot of extra Hall of Famers.
Yeah, and, you were a Hall of Famer because you were on, great defense. That offense was great. The offensive line, you had 2 really good running backs. You had a Hall of Fame quarterback. Your wide receivers are Hall of Famers as well. But, yeah, sometimes just playing on the team makes you more of a Hall of Famer, at least back then. Now you probably don't get the benefit of the doubt if you're a great player. Yeah, McLovin.
We're getting a lot of tweets about differences. The salary cap era dynasties are obviously different. Also, that people have mentioned the Yankees didn't really have to do a playoffs like current teams do. They just went straight to the World Series. So it's so hard to compare eras.
Well, UCLA, back then you probably had a field of 32 in March Madness, and they normally played their first-round games, their first couple of games would be in California or nearby, I believe. But, I mean, those were still great teams. Bill Walton's team would stack up against anybody. Lou Alcindor's team, it was Gail Goodrich and Walt Hazzard and Keith Erickson back in the 60s. That was a team that didn't have anybody over 6'6", and they won a couple of national titles in there. Gail Goodrich, one year, was the best player in college basketball. I think he scored 40 points, 41 points, 42 points in a national title game. Yeah, McLovin.
How much of it was John Wooden being the best coach?
Well, I mean, look, we could go deeper into this where Sam Gilbert was a sugar daddy there. John Wooden was a great coach. It helped that you were getting the best players. Lou Alcindor going from New York to L.A. to play basketball back then, that's unheard of. But somehow he ended up there. And, he was well worth it. Whatever it cost, he was well worth it. Yes, McLovin.
You're saying college basketball does that? Michael Beasley didn't want to go to Kansas State because Kansas State is such a great place that maybe the top player in the country had some incentive?
Well, O.J. Mayo as well. Like you had guys who, you're going, how did he end up there? It just, don't want to cast aspersions while I cast an aspersion, but how did he end up there? I always wondered about that Michael Beasley. He was like, how did he end up at Kansas State? Because when I want to play great basketball, I go to Kansas State. Did he think he was going to Manhattan, like actually New York City? Like, hey, you're going to New York City. You're going to be playing. Oh, St. John's. No, Manhattan, Kansas. Yeah, Paulie.
I went back yesterday after you talked about Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when he declared out of Power Memorial to go to UCLA. There was a front page of the sports section newspaper article in 1965 in the New York Times about it. And it was really fascinating because, a lot of people thought Lou Alcindor would stay at one of the New York schools, St. John's or whatever the New York schools were at the time.
Yeah.
And in the article, as it went down, Lou Alcindor did the press conference, like a press conference, because that was by demand. The press wanted to be there, and they were surprised. So he did one of those gymnasium things where he sat at a podium and announced where he was going to school by media request. Also, that was the first time he had publicly spoken to the media in his career. In high school, whenever they wanted interviews, he never once spoke to any New York media and did it through his coach. That coach handles all the media.
And then when he got to UCLA, he didn't speak to the media because they kind of kept their players away from being exposed to the media. Something John Thompson did when he got to Georgetown, or when Patrick Ewing got there to Georgetown. But yeah, Lou Alcindor, and that's why, and I'm not going to go into a rage like I did last week when ESPN put out their 32 top players or whatever. I don't know how many top college basketball players, but I was watching because I had nothing else to watch, and then all of a sudden I'm drawn into it because I'm so angry at how they've ranked these players. And then when some of their analysts actually said Michael Jordan's the greatest college basketball player of all time, I didn't throw things at the TV, but I definitely wanted Jay Billis's phone number, and I called Fritzi, and I said, I need Billis's number now. Poor Jay's probably going, what? What's going on here? And then I just saw where Shaq moved past Lou Alcindor in the bracket challenge. Ask Shaq who he'd vote for. And is this just the public who's voting on this? Because I guess there's not enough old people voting on this. But even if you're not old, Shaq being on a commercial with the General is not reason enough to vote for him to move past Lou Alcindor. There is no debate whatsoever. Greatest college basketball player of all time is Lou Alcindor. If you want to say the most accomplished college basketball player of all time, there is no argument. Breanna Stewart of UConn won 4 national titles and was the most outstanding player in 4 consecutive years. That would be perfect. That would be scoreboard. Now, you want to talk about transcendent? Cheryl Miller. Absolutely. Christian Laettner is on the list. Michael Jordan at one year was not even the best player on his team. It was James Worthy. Michael became the greatest player. Look at Bill Russell's college career. Couple of national titles, Olympic gold medal. Then he won 11 of 13 championships in the NBA. But for some reason, I don't know what happened to people. If this were my kids, I'd ground them.
You should ground America.
I may ground my kids just because I'm mad at America here and how they're voting on this. I'm going to go home and tell my 21-year-old, hey, you got time out. Time out? I'm too old for time out. She got her own car. You're grounded. Why? Because people had Shaq move past Lou Alcindor. Ask your mom. Go talk to your mom. Oh, God. All right. I got some Meat Madness songs I'll bring to your attention. Let me get a couple of phone calls here on people who want to weigh in on Dynasties here. Karen in Louisiana. Hi, Karen. Welcome to the program.
Hey, what about Pat Summitt and our Lady Balls?
I'm fine with that. I'm fine.
I watch her Louisiana Tech, and I watch her kick our butt. So Tech won a few, but, she was always there.
Well, USC came in and knocked out Louisiana Tech, but Pat Summitt, to me, could have coached men's basketball. She could have coached anywhere she wanted to. She was that good, and you get no argument with me for Tennessee women's basketball because Pat Summitt was the first, I think, great coach in college basketball for women. Then Gino Auriemma just took it to another level. Seton O'Connor.
Somebody just sent in North Carolina women's soccer as a dynasty.
Okay.
They won they were NCAA national champions 21 of 38 years.
Okay. That seems
That's
sustainable. Yeah, it
pretty good run.
Yeah, seems sustainable. Luke in Iowa. Hi, Luke.
Hey, 5'11", 205. I was just going to say, I know dynasties are usually for teams, but I think you have to make an exception for one, Tiger Woods.
Yeah, I don't want to get into individuals, but thank you, Luke. I mean, it's a fair point, but that's what, Jack Nicholas was a dynasty, if you want to talk about that. Kelly Slater is a dynasty in surfing. I mean, we have individuals who have been, individual dynasties, but now we're trying to keep it to teams. Lane in North Dakota. Hey, Lane.
Hey, first-time caller, long-time Vikings apologist. I would like to say the NDSU football team winning 8 national championships in 9 years, probably a pretty good dynasty.
Yeah, we just mentioned that last hour. Thanks for the phone call, Lane. Victor in L.A. Hey, Victor.
I'll make it quick, and I won't mention Tiger Woods. That's who I was going to mention. But I will say, first of all, I love the green room music. Awesome. And then I will say I was heartbroken by the Dolphins losing to the Niners in the Super Bowl. And then as far as not a dynasty but a good run, the Braves had a good run.
Good run, but only one title. That's the problem. And if you're looking at individuals, Simone Biles would be there. Serena Williams would be there. Those are dynasties, individual dynasties. They're athletes who have good runs. That was a dynasty. Yeah, Paul.
Dan, your Mount Union Purple Raiders, Division III football, 30 conference titles out of like 35 years. Yeah. I think they won 13 national titles going back to the 90s.
And I love that purple that they wore. Awesome color there. All right, we're going to stay with the poll question, McLovin?
I think so, unless you want to go a different direction. I had a baseball question for you.
Okay.
We were debating pre-show without you. What's the best baseball game of recent memory of, say, the last 30 years? Paulie said the Cubs, Indians. I said the Blue Jays, Phillies. It's opening day in MLB Network, and all the networks are showing classic games. Is there a greatest baseball game in your mind? One that stands out above all else?
Oh, I think the Big Red Machine in 1975 when Carlton Fisk hits that home run, that was a pretty incredible game. Because that was Game 6, I believe, and then the Reds came back and won the title in Game 7. Bill Buckner with the ball going through his legs where the Mets were left for dead and the Red Sox were going to win. I put that up there. There's too many of those. Yeah, McLovin.
I was thinking, when the Joe Carter home run. Were you at that game?
Yeah, I was down the left field line sitting with Peter Gammons and Dave Soup Campbell, and I remember it was either Peter Gammons or Dave Campbell said, I wouldn't be surprised if Joe Carter ended this. And it was like the next pitch. And then I never saw that ball land. And I was right down the left field line in the media area. And I just remember watching Joe run around the bases. And then we went into the locker room. And I went into the Phillies locker room to interview Mitch Williams. But that was one of those where you went, wait, what just happened?
Also, they were supposed to celebrate Kirk Gibson today at Dodger Stadium, I believe, or something this week. That's one of the greatest games. Were you at that one too?
No, I was not at that game. That was, but I just remember because Bob Costas, I think, had said a disparaging comment about those Dodgers, something about like the worst team to make it to the World Series. I'm going to be fair to Bob. They're not going to take away one of his Emmys, but I think he talked about how they had no business being here or they were one of the worst teams. And then that just became this rallying cry. They had one great pitcher, and then they had just a ragtag group there. And when Gibby hit that home run, it just took away. That happened twice to the Oakland A's. And I think both times it happened to Eckersley. The Cincinnati Reds, when Joe Oliver hit a double down the line, and the Reds because, the Oakland was a dynasty, or at least we thought they were. And you had everything. They had a great lineup, great pitching, the best closer in the game. And when Joe Oliver hit a double down the line, the undermanned Reds did what the Dodgers had done before to Oakland. And that is you end up winning, and you didn't think they had any business beating the Oakland A's. But, yeah, that was a great game. All right, we'll take a break here. And when we come back, Rick Neuheisel has his guitar. I don't know what he's singing today. But also, I want to get his thoughts. Is he all in on Joe Burrow being the best player in this draft? And how much of Jordan Love did he see? Justin Herbert. And, of course, if you're the Dolphins and you want Joe Burrow, do you go get him? Or would you settle for the consolation prize of Tua Tagovailoa? More phone calls coming up, 20 after the hour. This is the Dan Patrick Show. It's something amazing, and you've taken me up on the offer. Discover matches all the cash back you earn on your credit card at the end of your first year automatically. There's no limit on how much you can earn. How amazing is that? In fact, it's even more amazing because According to the 2020 Nielsen report, over 99% of places in the United States that take credit cards take the Discover credit card. When it comes to Discover, get used to hearing the word yes more often. You can learn more at discover.com/yes. Discover.com/yes. Limitations apply. Steamboat Springs, Colorado checks in. Oh, with a couple of them. Very nice. It's from John Miller, police officer, Steamboat Springs. This is Scott Burley, Southington, Connecticut. But that's Burley County, North Dakota. All right. Maybe there's an explanation in here. Dan and the Danettes. Never been to North Dakota, but you could say I own this county. All right. Burley County. Thank you. Appreciate that. But wait, there's more. This is Parker Fire District, South Metro, Colorado. Got a lot from Colorado. This is from Luke Smith, who sent that in. Thank you. This is Township of Derry. Is that Hershey, Pennsylvania? It's for the Man Cave, Derry Township, Hershey, Pennsylvania, chocolate capital of the world. Yeah, alrighty. That. This is formal invitation to follow. That's save the date. That's Josh and Allie, 9/19/2020 in Marion, Virginia. And that's very nice. I probably won't be able to make it, but I appreciate you thinking of me. Thanks for the patches. Kind of become obsessed with these things. This great program brought to you by the great folks at Mercedes. Mercedes-AMG, be prepared for whatever comes your way. It's the all-new GT four-door coupe. Because life is a race, visit your local dealership for a test drive. And there I go. If you missed any of our interviews from the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave, go to the Dan Patrick Show app. Watch and listen from inside the Mercedes-AMG Man Cave. Mercedes-AMG driving performance. You know what I started doing last night? That is going to shock you.
Well, give us a hint.
Has to do with a car.
You're restoring a vintage car at home.
I'm watching somebody restore a car that I bought.
That's even better.
Yes. So it's a 73 RS Porsche. My brother reminds me it's not Porsche, it's Porsche. So it's a 73 RS 911. And we dropped the engine, as you like to say, last night. I picked out the paint color, and I've always wanted to be a part of a restoration project.
What kind of shape is it in, like 1 to 10?
The engine is great. The body's great. Hello. And the engine is great as well. And then I got to pick out the paint and what we're going to paint it. It's going to be a stone gray.
Like a kind of like a flat gray almost? Or like we'll have like a glare, a sheen to it.
It'll have a sheen to it, but it's gorgeous. Yes, Todd.
Are you assisting him, documenting it, offering
Both.
him iced tea?
I would, but I don't know why you would be making fun of me.
I'm not making fun. I'm just curious.
No,
when you
that's
said
a shot.
You said you're going to be watching him, so I'm picturing you sitting, when you're kicking back.
Todd,
in a
you don't
chair.
even pump your own gas, and you're going to give me grief.
Occasionally, I'll pump my own gas. I usually like to go to the full service.
No, I'm watching, and I want to help in any way I can. So I helped a little bit in pulling the engine last night.
Respect that.
Yeah, but this guy is spectacular in what he does, especially with paint. And I get to watch, and I got a 3-month period here where we're going to take this apart. I'll put some pictures up and let you see what we're doing. Yeah, Seton.
Well, the way that you sort of initially presented it, it did sound like, some guy was doing work in your garage and you were sitting there in a lawn chair watching.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with that at all, no.
I like to see things started and then completed. Yes, Paul.
If I had Da Vinci over at my house, I'm not grabbing a brush and jumping in with him. I'm grabbing a cooler and watching my man paint.
But that's like when I have Rick Neuheisel on and he talks quarterbacks, segue, then I just listen to him because he knows more than I do. Good morning, Rick.
How are you, Dan?
I'm doing
everybody
great.
there with your crew?
Well, I've got Fritzi at home, McLovin at home, Seton at home. Paulie is here in the man cave, and we have a couple other people behind the scenes and making this possible. How about you?
We are thrilled that you're making it possible. My crew is getting a little testy, but we've never had this kind of family time, and we're going to make the most of it.
Damn it, you're going to enjoy my company.
This is no longer a quest.
All right.
Vacation.
All right.
Yeah, exactly.
I know you have a song for us. I'll get to that in a moment. Can you give us a hint on what the song is about?
Well, it's about what we're all going through. And we're just going to try to give everybody some semblance of how to survive in this era of quarantine.
Oh, so you have a coronavirus song.
We call it quarantine.
Oh, quarantine.
We just call it a quarantine. Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
All right.
We've got the Von Trapp family singers here ready to go.
All right. Let me talk a little bit of football because you know as much about quarterbacks as anybody. And I'm curious, are you still all in on Joe Burrow, number one to the Bengals?
All in.
Okay.
All in. No reason to deviate from that. The kid was fantastic, and he did it as much with his mind as with his body. I know there are going to be people that pick apart his arm strength and things that maybe he's not as physically menacing as some of the other quarterbacks that have gone on to greatness, but this guy can flat do it. And I think the Bengals are going to be thrilled to have him.
If you're the Dolphins and you love Joe Burrow, which that's Todd McShay says there's no doubt, there's no question, they love Joe Burrow, and you have the picks. How valuable is Joe Burrow if you're the Dolphins? What would you be willing to give up if you're the GM?
Well, there's no question that he's worth the price. The question is, how far do you have the distance between Burrow and Tua Tagovailoa? Because if you like both those kids, you can get, I think, Tagovailoa for a much lesser price than you can get Burrow just by going up to the third spot there and getting Detroit's pick. I know the Redskins are going to try to, dance around and make people think that they're interested in a quarterback, but I think they've got to go Chase Young and give Dwayne Haskins a chance. They went and got Kyle Allen from Carolina to ease the pressure on Haskins, but I think the price for Burrow going to one will be too expensive, and it's too risky for the Bengals, especially with an Ohio kid in Joe Burrow. I think the Bengals have to go with Burrow. I think the action will start in that 3 and 4 spot with the Lions picks and the Giants picks.
Do you think the Dolphins go up to make sure they get Tua?
They have to. They won't get anybody at 5. I think Herbert and Tua will go at 3 and 4.
Really?
I think you have to go there. You can't risk, unless you're in love with Jordan Love. No pun intended. Unless you're
that's too high, though, isn't it, Rick?
I agree. I don't trust that guy. He threw 17 interceptions in his last year when he's supposed to be even more mature and more experienced and so forth. So I think you have to go. I think the catbird seats are the Lions and the Giants. Those are going to be quarterbacks taken at 3 and 4 in my mind.
You sold on Justin Herbert.
I am. That guy is a big time talent. There's some small ball stuff that he has to work on, meaning that he's got to be natural throwing the ball out into the flat to a running back. He's got to be able to drop it off to a swing route and be able to control what's a howitzer of a throwing arm. But he's brilliant. He had the highest grade point. I mean, he won the academic Heisman. He stayed for 4 years and ran for 3 touchdowns in the Rose Bowl. A year ago, I was watching him against Stanford. He was 25 of 27 in regulation. I think the guy has everything. And he's the one guy, when we sit and talk about the quarterbacks, that didn't have the bevy of just brilliant wide receivers. We're not talking about any of his wide receivers being first-rounders.
I know.
And he lost his tight end midway through the season, his kind of security blanket. So I think this guy's the real deal.
But that's when we're talking to Rick Neuheisel, former college coach and a great college football analyst for CBS. And I've spoken to a few NFL and college people and a scout as well. How hard is it to assess just how great Tua and Burrow are, given that they have first-round talent at wide receiver and multiple first-round talents at wide receiver?
That's the $64,000 question, because these guys had every weapon known to man at their disposal. I mean, they really did. The yards after catch for these two teams and these two quarterbacks are off the charts. But I lean towards Burrow here because Burrow was given so much more autonomy at the line of scrimmage from Ensminger and Joe Brady, and they gave him the keys to the castle. He was allowed to change run to pass, pass to run. He was allowed to change protections. I just think his mind is that further along. Not that it's superior, because I don't think they asked that much of Tua, given the RPO nature of their offense. But I just believe that Burrow is the most ready for NFL play quarterback we've seen in recent memory.
Could you fix Jameis Winston?
Jameis has to want to be fixed. Jameis has every throw. Jameis has every ability to play this game at the highest level. We saw that over the time in college and certainly some of the time here in the NFL. What he has shown the inability to do is learn from previous mistakes. You know, an interception is okay if we don't do it again. But to do it over and over again, as he has done with the numbers, shows that he's not taking the coaching as to what to steer clear from. And to me, and you look at his off-field personality, it kind of shows the same thing. He hasn't necessarily realized that some of the stuff he's done before is beyond sophomoric, right? You have to be able to go to the next level. If he takes the next step and says, coach me a little harder, and I'm going to respond to it, then there's no question I think he can be fixed.
Before we get to your song, if you were going to take a risk or take a chance on Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, or Andy Dalton, who are you signing up for?
I go Jameis in that. You know, listen, Andy Dalton is a safe road, right? It's like the paved road. You're not going in potholes and all that stuff. I'm not sure what the upside is, and given where he is in age, I'm not sure how long he lasts. Cam, to me, was a beautiful, beautiful player, but when the legs go, so does the whole product, because the legs force teams into different fronts, 8-man fronts. You got single high, all of a sudden he was a great thrower. But you needed his legs to complete the package. I'm not sure, given the beating up that he's taking over the course of his career, he's at that point. So Jameis, to me, would be the guy that I would lean on. But it would take a long conversation and understanding that we have to get better with these mistakes that have plagued his career.
Coronavirus has an impact on college football coaches worried about the schedules, being able to start the off-season workouts, get ready for the season. Do you think there's a date that would make you nervous if you're a college coach of trying to get your team ready and having a full college season schedule?
You know, and the other thing that they're worried about, having talked to a couple of guys, Dan, is they're worried about their guys getting their grades. You know, these kids all have to still take their classes, and they're doing it off of computers at home, where sometimes the Wi-Fi is substandard and so forth. So to make sure that everybody's getting what they need academically, is one of the biggest concerns for the coaches right now, making sure that they're, we have people on our staff to make sure guys are going to class and getting up in the mornings and so on and so forth. That is no longer in place. So that's one of the big concerns. I don't think they're worried about missing spring football. Okay. I know that they are looking forward to having some sort of a mini camp, maybe a 2-week period over the course of the summer when it becomes safe to do so. And I think everybody will be fine. As a matter of fact, I think there are some guys who would give way to spring football over the course of the regular school year anyway, for a couple of weeks in the summer when the freshmen who are coming to join the class are all there. Spring football right now is usually with about 60 bodies. And you go through those bodies pretty quickly if you're trying to get much accomplished. So let everybody kind of recuperate that time during that time and make spring ball more of a summer couple of weeks. I think people would buy into that in a big way.
All right, we're ready for the debut. The tone.
You are ready for the Von Trapt family singers?
Do you have family there that will help you with this?
Oh, we've got family.
Who's there? You want to introduce?
We've got my wife, Susan.
Okay.
My wife, Susan.
All right.
My sons are here, who are arms in the air right now. They wanted no notoriety for this. Do not want to be at all in anybody's kitchen. So, matter of fact, we're having people go on strike as we speak right now, Dan. Thanks for bringing that up. But the idea is just a little levity in the face of quarantine.
Okay.
All right.
Here's Rick Neuheisel.
Hit it, young man.
Quarantine, we're all just quarantined. Tuning into season 3 of Stranger Things. Watching Christmas movies in the middle of spring. I prefer Bonanza reruns with Hop Sing. It's time to make the best of the social distancing as we quarantine. Yeah, we all quarantine. Look at the bright side while we live this movie scene. You can learn the words to American Pie by Don McLean. You want some football, watch Burt Reynolds and the Mean Machine. And the Houston Astros now don't have to be beans. Our hands are raw as hell and the damn sure clean. As we quarantine, yeah, we all quarantine. We missed the NBA three-pointers and back screens. I hated load management, but this is a bit extreme. No college basketball, no new sister team. Now our March Madness is watching the politicians blow off steam. Just get us toilet paper and a new vaccine, and we'll just quarantine. Hope to end this quarantine. The NFL goes on because it's a machine. Tommy Brady cashing in on free agency. It's really big and it will be a scene. Let's hope we get our summer and wear some sunscreen. And bring the Raiders back to New Orleans. While we're quarantined. all why we're hunkered down quarantine. We can just quarantine. We can just quarantine.
That's all we got for you, my friend.
That's well done. That's great. Great lyrics. The Von Neuheisel family there. Von Neuheisel family. Hey, thanks for checking in. We appreciate it, and hope everybody is well. Thank you, Rick.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Everybody hunker down. We'll be fine. Talk
That's
soon.
Rick Neuheisel, CBS Sports College football analyst with quarantine. Take a break. Phone calls are coming up. We have our Meat Friday March Madness songs to bring to your attention. The Meat Madness, have that for you. The Kansas City region still left. And Michael Wilbon in about a half hour from now. Back with your phone calls after this. All right, a couple of phone calls here. Yanni in Baltimore. Hey, Yanni, what do you have for us?
Hey, Dan, what's going on?
Hey.
I am only 25, so obviously I never got to watch Pistol Pete play in college, but the mothership giving him a 13 seed seems a little low. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how good he was and where he should be ranked.
Well, he was his own circus when he came to town. In SEC land, that's football country. They came out to see. There was nobody like Pete Maravich. No one. And, yeah, he was a gunner. I know they didn't make it to the NCAA tournament. Went to the NIT, played Marquette when Dean Meminger and Al McGuire were there. Lost that game. But he averaged 44 a game with no three-point shot. and even went into the pros and put up 68 on the New York Knicks, in one game. He was fascinating. He deserves better than a 13 seed. Jerry West definitely deserves better than a 13 seed. Jerry West, a better college basketball player all around than Pete Maravich. And but you put those guys at 13. Trae Young should not be in the grouping there. He had one very good year, and even then you could say it was maybe 3/4 of a season. That's it. I got some of the seeding I can blame on ESPN. The voting, all right, that's on your preference there, and great. Do you want to put in Shaq over Lou Alcindor? Fine, go ahead. But some of the other seedings were just wrong. Michael Jordan is not the best college basketball player of all time. He's not. Yeah, Paulie.
How is Kyrie Irving a 14 seed? He played. I'm just kidding. He was not.
No, he played 8 games. Well, wouldn't be surprised if they did that. We'll talk to Michael Wilbon about this. I promised I wasn't going to get upset about it.
You're not going to let this one go, though. You don't let things go.
I forget. I don't forgive.
I like to remind you of grudges sometimes. It's always, hey, Dan, remember that guy?
Oh, I know. And then I have asked Paulie before. I go, why do I hate that guy? And then Paulie has to tell me. All right. 2 hours in the books. One more to go. Fritzi's actually cooking on his Traeger. He will reveal what he's cooking next hour. Michael Wilbon, as I mentioned. More phone calls, more Meat Madness songs as well. Thursday edition, Dan Patrick Show.
Dude, this place is monstrous. Wow. Dude, this is so awesome. This is beautiful.
Guys, here we are. Wayne Rooney said, come to me. I'll be here. We're at DC United's new stadium. This place is so new. It's got that new stadium smell. They don't even have goals yet. I mean, that's going to be it.
They should put those in at some point.
You know, one thing it doesn't have is Wayne.
Right. But I mean, he works here.
It's a big place. Maybe he's here and we just don't see him now.
Wayne! Hey, Wayne!
You got to be here working.
Didn't he promise he was going to...
Wayne! Wayne! Ooh, we should do this in our new studio. We should get something like this. This is actually, right here is where the guys all get massages. This big table here. You just hop up and lay out, and then somebody will come over and start rubbing you down.
Beer pong table?
They put little hot dogs here. I'd have meatballs here. New York pizza. Maybe some chicken parm and some house lo mein. And then you'll be all set to get out there and run around on the field.
Are we meeting Wayne here for lunch? Is that the deal?
He likes a pint as much as the next guy. I wouldn't be surprised to see
There should be some sliced meat any minute they're going to bring out. I got the carb station here.
Maybe we should be here like on game day. See? All in all, guys, a hell of a fun day.
Yeah.
We got to kick the ball around.
I found a beer.
We stole a couple beers.
I'm going to hold that for you? Yep, take that down.
DC United let us just roam around their cool new stadium. I mean, Wayne Rooney wasn't here, but he's a busy guy. Maybe next time.
It's okay.
Next time.
I understand.
Would have been cool, though. Let's go.
All right, let's hit it.
Let's wrap it.
Buckle up, boys. Time to go to work. Place to go.
Dan Patrick. Dan Patrick.
The Danettes, aside from Paulie, are on location at their homes.
Paulie.
Protected by glass here.
Seaton.
Is that a den?
Yeah, in my house we call it the music room.
Fritzi.
I'm looking out to some light snow falling in the backyard.
McLovin.
Brooklyn jackhammering. Construction's going on.
This is the Dan Patrick Show. Taking advantage of this time without sports to ask the important questions.
Joe Buck back on the program with us. Rank your kids, because you told me this privately, like favorite to least favorite.
One looks like my baby picture. One looks like Michelle's baby picture. So I'll let you guess which one of those two, at least through almost 2 years of life, is my favorite.
Broadcasting from the Mercedes Man Cave, this is Dan Patrick.
Final hour on this Thursday. Hope we've provided a distraction, maybe a little humor, smile on your face. That's our goal here for you, and glad you're part of the program. People have been voting on the Meat Madness, 150,000 votes so far, and we got another week before we move on to the second round. But thank you for the response with this. Make sure you go to danpatrick.com. We got some spring cleaning there with some of our merchandise, our merch, as Seaton likes to say, with discounted T-shirts and hats. We got some new Tom Brady T-shirts in there as well. But if you get a chance, go to danpatrick.com. You can watch, if you'd like, on youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show, or listen on Fox Sports Radio and our other great radio affiliates around the country, numbering 362. McLovin, what is the poll question we're going to go with in the final hour?
Okay, the first 2 hours was greatest dynasty. UCLA won it, but UConn women's basketball was a close second. Okay, I have a question for you, an NFL question.
Okay.
Who is the most interesting backup quarterback in the NFL? And I'll give you these options. Taysom Hill, Ryan Griffin, who is currently the Bucs backup, Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, or Andy Dalton.
Yeah, but I don't know where they are. I don't know where they're going to be. Because if Cam Newton goes to the Chargers, what does that mean for Tyrod Taylor, and what's that mean for them going in and getting Justin Herbert? Is Nick Foles considered a backup quarterback? Because that's interesting, because of all the backup quarterbacks, he's going to be starting at some point here. And maybe he's not even a backup by the time the season starts. Where's Andy Dalton? Andy Dalton may end up staying in Cincinnati. And maybe that's a good thing for Joe Burrow. Help him. And if you can't get anything for Andy Dalton, you know, the Panthers waited and weren't fair to Cam Newton in how long they waited. Did you see where he passed his physical? Cam is declared, I guess, healthy? But I don't know what that means. Like, if there was a game today, could he play? Because when you're medically cleared, are you medically cleared to get ready to play football? Is he able to play football right now? I don't know, and I don't know if you saw the language on that, McLovin, but I just saw where Cam Newton, according to Adam Schefter, was medically cleared, or he's considered healthy.
Yeah, I don't know what that means. And but teams keep saying, GMs keep saying, we want to get these guys in person for physicals.
Well, that's the guy, Cam and Tua. Those are the two players that I would want to have in front of me and then be able to decide. I'm going to take a little bit of a risk on Cam. I'm going to take a big risk, potentially take a big risk on Tua. And we just had Rick Neuheisel on last hour, and he said he thinks that you're going to have to go up to 3 if you want to get Tua and go up to 4 if you want to get Justin Herbert. He thinks that you're going to have 3 quarterbacks taken in the first 4 picks. And then Jordan Love, I think he's probably late first round. Some even have him as a second-round talent. I saw a couple of mocks where the New England Patriots may be interested in him. There's a lot of offseason left here before anybody's deciding on what they're going to do. Today would have been opening day, and the commissioner, Rob Manfred, had this to say to Scott Van Pelt last night on SportsCenter on when he thinks best-case scenario is the season will start.
My optimistic outlook is that at some point in May, we'll be gearing back up. We'll have to make a determination, depending on what the precise date is, as to how much of a preparation period we need, whether that preparation period is going to be done in the club's home cities or back in Florida and Arizona. And again, I think the goal would be to get to as many regular season games as possible and think creatively about how we can accomplish that goal.
Scott Boras, agent to the Stars, came out with his schedule. He's saying that you can still play 162 games, selfish purposes because he wants his players to be paid. I think if you look at 100 games as your goal, that probably seems to be realistic. He wants to play baseball until after December 25th, that you would probably have the last day of the World Series on the 26th. And he's looking at, you're going to front load games that are going to be in colder weather cities or the potential for colder weather. And then in the latter part of the regular season and then postseason, which I don't know how you get around November postseason, where you're going to say to the Yankees, hey, could you have all 7 of your playoff games be played someplace else besides Yankee Stadium? Like, just small little things like that. Or if the Nationals are playing in November and you say, or Philadelphia or Chicago. That's the slight problem I have with this. Plus, I don't think we should be playing baseball in December, let alone November, late in November. But Scott Boras says he's got a couple of scenarios for 162 games and 144 games. I think 100 probably seems like a nice number for everybody here. I did see this story in New York City. Dozens of basketball hoops in New York City are being taken down to curb the spread of the pandemic. The mayor said that they would remove 80 public basketball courts where people were not respecting the social distancing measures. They asked people not to shoot basketball with anyone who is not a member of their households. The new measure leaves some 1,700 other courts still available. Yeah, Paulie.
I read this article, and it wasn't specific of how they're getting rid of it. Are they cutting the poles down and the nets and the baskets? And
I think you just take the hoops down.
Because couldn't you just, they're all chain nets in New York City for the most part. They don't have, couldn't you just put a padlock over the chain nets so the ball doesn't go through it and the game's over after one shot? And then you don't have to take down these entire things?
Well, you're just taking down a rim.
No.
That's all they would do. You're not going to take down the structure.
Hope not.
No, that'd take a lot of time. And if you want to accomplish, if you want to shoot by yourself, then you're going to have to find a place. There'll be other places to go to, but just the fact what it signifies is we don't want you out. Like New York is in a real, this is a dangerous, dangerous time in New York City, and we're only 2 weeks in when you think about this. Remember, it was 2 weeks ago when the NCAA tournament truly canceled games where they went, no, there won't be a tournament. So it's only been 2 weeks. Remember the Big East was tipping off? And we were watching a game at Madison Square Garden, and we just got through with the show. It's like 12:05, and I said, oh, tell me they're not playing this basketball game. That's 2 weeks ago today.
That was crazy.
Right? 2 weeks ago today. It just feels like it was such a long time ago. You go back to that tennis tournament in Indian Wells was canceled. And that's 2 weeks and 3 days ago. And that it caught my attention, but not enough where I thought, okay, I'm going to make a big deal out of this. And then the Ivy League canceled their games. And then we went, oh, okay, but it's the Ivy League and it's not a moneymaker. And okay, so Yale goes into March Madness. Fine. And then all of a sudden, you started to see some of these tournament or, these leagues go, wait a minute, should we be holding our conference tournament? And then we had Tom Izzo from Michigan State on. And I said, why are you guys playing this tournament? And he goes, I'm starting to wonder. You're making sense here. And then they canceled the Big Ten tournament. But where we are now, and that's why I think just trying to troubleshoot this and say, hey, when's baseball going to start? It's just dangerous because I wouldn't want to get anybody's hopes up, and I wouldn't want somebody to hold me to a date where, hey, we got to start by July 1st. The NBA, when can you start? How long does that season go? What's that mean for the next season? College football. What's that mean for, you're not going to have the spring game, and then you're going to have workouts coming up in the fall. Get ready for the season there. Look at all these sports. And I'd rather a commissioner not give me, and I think there's drop dead dates for all of these leagues. I do. Whether they're going to admit that or not, I do think there's drop dead dates, because then you don't want to impact the following season. And I think that those are things just to keep an eye on. But a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks. Phone calls are welcome. We were talking about Dynasties. Sporting News gave us some content earlier in the day. Thank you, Sporting News. And they talked about Dynasties, great Dynasties of all time. I still think you'd be hard-pressed to have anybody other than the Boston Celtics. And I know that they didn't have to go through as many rounds to get to the title game. UCLA basketball didn't have to play as many games. I think they had to play 4 games back then to win the national title. But if you're looking at a modern-day dynasty, the Patriots, with what they've done, you've been to 9 Super Bowls in, 19 years? All right. To me, I look at that 5, 6 year, 7 year window. That's a dynasty. Patriots have sort of had great in the beginning, and then the latter part of the Brady Belichick era. They've been the most dominant team by far, getting to those championships. And then people offered up individuals who were dynasties. Serena Williams is a dynasty. Tiger's been a dynasty. Simone Biles has been a dynasty. There have been a lot of those individuals who have been, dynasties under themselves. We'll get to phone calls coming up. Sean in Iowa joins us. Hey, Sean, what do you have for me today?
Hey, how we doing, Dan?
Good.
61220. Hey, for starters, just wanted to say thank you guys for doing the YouTube thing. This is awesome. Gives us something to watch at home. But
thank you.
I wanted to bring up what I think, I know it's more of a Midwest thing, but how can you ignore Iowa wrestling under the Dan Gable years?
We didn't ignore it. We mentioned it last hour. But thank you, Sean. I agree. What Iowa wrestling, that was a dynasty with Dan Gable. No doubt about it. Do you know that there have been, I got a stat of the day. Can we fire up stat of the day music? Because I just stumbled.
Stat of the
whoa,
day,
whoa.
stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day. Here comes that what? Stat of the day.
Thank you, Ron Burgundy. There have been 2 players in NBA history who have made 30 field goals in a game. One is Wilt Chamberlain. The other?
Stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day. Here comes that what? Stat of the day.
So Wilt Chamberlain did it, I think, 3 times in his career where he had at least 30 field goals in a game. This guy, on this date, did it going 30 for 45 from the floor. I'm not going to tell you the year. Not going to tell you who he did it against. But the only time in NBA history that anyone not named Wilt Chamberlain made 30 field goals in an NBA game. Anybody want to guess on this? Paulie?
Bernard King.
Bernard King, no. Back row, suck it back row. Anybody got an offering here? McLovin?
Pete Maravich, because it's you.
No. Good guess, though. Seton O'Connor Jr. III?
Well, I was going to say Kobe just because he put up
81.
81, but...
The answer is no with Kobe, and I thought the same thing. Fritzi?
I do not know.
All right. So you have no name.
I have no name.
Like any name is better than no name.
I'll go Bill Russell.
All right. That's so bad. You should have just stayed quiet there. Yeah.
That's why I had no name.
Yeah. Thank you, Todd. Yes, McLovin.
David Robinson?
No. This guy did it in 1974 against the Portland Trailblazers. Yeah, McLovin.
David Thompson?
No. Paulie?
Oh, man. Not Dan Issel.
Dan Issel, no. We've had somebody related to him, 2 people related to this guy on our show.
Crickets. If this was Jeopardy, we'd all fail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fritzi might get points for, his...
Rick Barry.
Yeah, Rick Barry. Rick Barry went 30 of 45 from the floor. He had 64 against the Blazers on this day in 1974.
Woo! Stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day, stat of the day. This is the stat of the day.
I had a couple more phone calls. Dave in California. Hi, Dave. What do you have for me?
Hey, Dan.
Hey, Dave.
5'10", 200 pounds. I don't know if this even is going to count, but I was thinking Appalachian State for Dynasty.
I don't know if they were really good. Wasn't that Irk Russell who was their head coach? But I think they had a pretty good run, but I don't think their run compares to what we had at North Dakota State. And there's a difference between a good run and a dynasty. K-Dog in Chicago joins us. Hey, K-Dog.
Hey, Dan. 5'8" and a lean 205.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm perplexed. How can you guys not consider the team that has the longest streak for playoff appearances in North American sports and modern times?
And which team is that?
Any guesses? How about a sport guess?
Is it a hockey guess?
It is a hockey team.
The Detroit Red Wings.
Ding, ding. That's pretty good.
All right. Well, thank you, K-Dog. I'm not excluding anybody. I didn't come up with the list. The Sporting News did. I'm just giving you the list. Now, what the Islanders did with Al Arbor, with Bossy and Trottier and Billy Smith, or Gretzky, that Gretzky team might be the greatest hockey team ever assembled. I mean,
Hot.
oh, my God. Yes. I mean, Grant Fuhrer, Paul Coffey. That was a great, great team. You had, whatchamacallit, from the Rangers.
Messier?
Yeah, Messier was on that team. I mean, that was a great team. But, yeah, you want to put in the Detroit Red Wings? I'm fine with that. Yeah, Paul.
You can look at the Red Wings as a run of relevancy. They're always relevant. They're always competitive. Almost like the St. Louis Cardinals. They don't have dynasties, but the Cardinals, they never go more than 2 or 3 years without a playoff run or a good, appearances. It's like Duke basketball. They've had times where they've been really, really good and have a run, but they're always relevant. That's what those franchises are.
I didn't know this, but I said I wasn't going to get upset about this. Somebody just sent me a note and said, by the way, people voting greatest college basketball player poll of all time on ESPN selected Zion Williamson over Danny Manning. Come on, you got to help me here. Zion didn't get to a Final Four. Danny Manning single-handedly won a national title. Stop! Yes, Seton.
I love how emotional this gets you.
See, you should see his little face. He's
crunched up. His little crushed soul is just sitting there on camera right now. He's just sunk over.
For those of you who can't see this, Dan's got this red shirt on, and now your face is starting to match your shirt, and you're staring at the piece of paper in front of you like you want to punch it.
I got to start drinking.
People, you got to help me.
You do.
Be smarter.
This reflects poorly on ESPN with what they're doing. It does. And where they had and look, I'm going to put the blame on the voters here, but ESPN with some of the seating, that's on ESPN. That's embarrassing. But maybe they accomplished what they wanted to, and then they get people talking about it. But, it's like any publicity is good publicity. Nope, that's not the case. Not the case. All right, Michael Wilbon will join us coming up. Also, I stumbled upon a new show. I didn't start binging because, I usually don't get through one entire episode. I watched 3 episodes yesterday, and I don't know where it's been all my life. I don't know where she's been all my life. Let me put it that way.
Wow.
Yeah. We'll take a break. Michael Wilbon will, if you think I'm mad, wait till he's mad at this ESPN poll as well. I think we have a winner on Todd's scoreboard today. We'll tell you what the numbers stand for and who was the winner of Todd's scoreboard. We hand out some DP show gear every single day. 19 after the hour, more phone calls coming up. And we have 4 more Meat Madness songs as well. 20 after the hour, Dan Patrick Show. We needed a printer. In fact, I love this printer so much, there are 3 in the building. Epson EcoTank printer. Kissing expensive cartridges goodbye. The Epson EcoTank printer comes with a ridiculous amount of ink, enough to print thousands and thousands of pages. The printer has supersized, easy-to-fill tanks, which means you never hassle with buying or changing expensive ink cartridges again. So you have business documents, reports, tax forms, everything on your list. You do it in color, and you'll love varying sizes here. So if you have just a small space for a printer, you can use it. They have one for you. You need a larger one. They have that for you as well. EcoTank is changing the way people print, and you should add it to your list because, as Shaq says, just fill and chill. Transform the way your home or office prints and do away with out-of-ink frustration. Check out Epson EcoTank printers at Best Buy, Office Depot, Office Max, Staples, and Epson.com/EcoTankDan. EPSON.com/EcoTankDan. EcoTank printers, just fill and chill.
This is exciting. Emergency t-shirt announcement from the gear store. Go to danpatrick.com to order. This is just out. It's to be for sale momentarily on the DP Show store. It's for all the people who are at home watching our show, can't go out. Here it is. Quarantine this.
Oh.
Yeah. Dark blue navy with orange are colors. Quarantine this. Now, even though you have to stay home, you could put the old middle finger up.
Wow.
You know, you can walk outside, just open your door, show it, then go back and watch TV, play PlayStation. Quarantine this.
I like it.
Yeah, it's hot. It's limited edition, by the way. We're only making
1,000
of these. They'll be gone before the day's over.
A couple thousand. We'll make as many as they want, but it's
yeah,
limited
but if you
edition.
say it's limited edition, people tell me that's how you do things.
Yeah. Well, it's like Pappy Van Winkle. It's about the supply and demand.
It's like a barbecue place. When we run out of meat, you got to leave.
We're only making 3 of those.
Right.
Order
So
now.
I would order right now.
I mentioned earlier in the show, I am helping restoring. I'm actually watching somebody restore a 1973 RS Porsche. Doesn't that sound like a good show? HGTV or DIY, watch me watch somebody else do something. I bought the car, and then I found a great mechanic, body guy, does unbelievable paint. And I'm watching him. I watched him last night drop the engine in this 1973 RS. And there's some parts that we need. And I said, rockauto.com. And they're there, rockauto.com, offering reliably low prices. At rockauto.com, you choose the part, brands, prices, features you want anytime 24/7. Parts delivered right to my home. You don't waste time, money, hunting, waiting for parts, phoning, driving, waiting in line. Go to rockauto.com. Make sure you tell them we sent you all the parts your car or truck or your 73 RS would ever need at rockauto.com. I mentioned that I stumbled upon a new show. It's not a new show, but for me, it's probably new-ish. And I don't know where this woman's been all my life, but she is absolutely spectacular. Her name is Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And it's a British show. It's a comedy drama TV series. And Phoebe Waller-Bridge is Fleabag. She is incredible. And I know that she's won some awards. That show has won awards. She is a very, very funny woman. It's almost like she would be Michael Scott from The Office. Her role and her abilities are similar. She's smarter than Michael Scott, but just that presence, that ability. So it's called Fleabag, if you get a chance. Not for kids, by the way. Yes, McLovin.
Not for kids is the understatement of the year. The opening scene, by the way, not for your wife either necessarily.
That's true. But my wife did watch the first two seasons of it, and I think.
What did she think?
Oh, she loved it. But Ozark, I think season 3 starts tomorrow.
Yes,
that'll be good. A little binge watching over the weekend. Michael Wilbon will join us coming up. Jeff in Detroit joining us. Hi, Jeff. What do you have for me?
What up, though, Dan?
What
Shout
up,
out to the chat row family, making me realize I need readers now. I'm like, damn, some small font on here, man. Real small. Hey, listen, I was wondering, could we count Jimmy Johnson because he has a team in NASCAR? Without a spotter, without the crew chief, without the people doing his work for him, he wouldn't be as dominant as he was. And as far as Paulie's question went earlier, if you could reverse a sports event to going your way, personally, it would be that Chris Webber timeout. I still wake up pissed about that one, man. Oh, my God. That timeout, we had him, baby.
Well, I don't know if you had him, but that you still needed a shot to win it. But thank you, Jeff. Yeah, and the fact that C. Webb embraced it and named his foundation, his company, Timeout, I thought was a great way to embrace that. Is Michael Wilbon set to join us there?
Not yet. We're tracking down Wilbon.
Okay. Fritzi's working on that as we speak. While Fritzi also has the Traeger fired up, I think we got Michael Wilbon here. Michael, how are you doing?
Dan, I'm good. How you hanging in there?
How's the home situation?
Well, it's a little different, I think, than most people that maybe experience, and it's back east. I'm in Arizona, and you just seeing the sun for me is different than the first few days of this when I was back east in D.C. and even in Chicago. Just seeing the sun and having the warmth, and who knows? There's I've certainly talked to people, the medical experts who said that one of the reasons people kept talking about in their community. Keep talking about May, June is that, these viruses historically, even the worst ones have been seasonal, which is why they use the word seasonal before virus. And they're hoping that plays a part, sun and warmth. And so that's not necessarily why I'm here, but it's a whole lot better than being in, 40 degrees in the rain and just the depression and the reality of what we're dealing with right now. So I'm here. It's been going well, and we're doing some segments of the show every day. I have a studio which is otherwise essentially empty. Just don't see anybody, even though I'm sure it's not empty. And it's worked well.
And when do you guys think that you'll be back on the air on Pardon the Interruption?
Dan, you know what? It hasn't come up, like when we might do the show as it has existed for 18 plus years. As opposed to doing segments of the show on SportsCenter, it has not. I haven't asked. I'm sure it's come up with the big bosses. You know how that works. I have not asked. I'm happy to be doing the amount of the show that we're doing now. I know that's where we are for this week, and I would suspect next week. But beyond that, I don't know, because I don't know. So much is determined by what companies feel comfortable with their employees doing, with their staffs doing. And that stuff's way above me. And I just don't. There's, to speculate on it, even to ask it. Like, hey, guys, when are we going to get back to the show? Nobody knows. And so I just don't concern myself with it at this point. Not yet.
He's Michael Wilbon, the co-host of Pardon the Interruption, also covering the NBA for ABC and the Mothership. What do you think of the NFL draft going on as scheduled here next month?
Well, Dan, we talked about this, Tony and I did yesterday, and I think I'm okay with it. What I'm not okay with is whiny general managers saying we can't finish our psychological profiling. I don't need to hear that we can't have our 11th visit with somebody to ask them, if you were a tree, what kind of tree would you be in the middle of this? There's context to everything. Does the show have to go on if you're the NFL? I guess it doesn't. I mean, look, this is an exception to everything we know in our lives. I mean, maybe there's 3 people alive who can remember the end of World War One. Probably not, actually. I looked it up the other day. My son asked me, he said, "Dad, is there anybody alive who's around for the Spanish flu?" And I said, "Well, let's look it up." And we found a couple of people who were amazingly 116. But this is an exception that no one on earth knows anything about. And so if the league wants to go on with this, I'm okay with it. I'm not offended by it. If they said, like everything else, we're going to push this a little bit, I'd be okay with that too. This isn't one of those things that has me agitated like some other things that are going on during this.
Yeah, as long as you can do your job. And I had a source say, these executives, these scouts, GMs saying, "Hey, I can't do my job." He said, "Remember when Cleveland moved to Baltimore, they had no time to do any interviews, and their first 2 draft picks with Ozzie Newsome were 2 Hall of Famers in Jonathan Ogden and Ray Lewis."
Oh, that's a great point.
And he said, if you do your job the entire year, then you should be ready to have a draft tomorrow. If you've done your job, you should be able to, conduct your draft, your war room tomorrow. So
yeah, but I agree with that, Dan. These guys are so, I don't even want to say prepared. I mean, yes, if you've done your job all year, and how many times are they going to look at a guy? How many times do they have to have him in? Under normal conditions, okay, fine, you tolerate it. But to say that has to happen this year, or we can't have a draft right now, and you push it to win. And how do you know you're going to get that chance? And look, I understand being able to just give someone a simple physical, but in most of these cases, I suspect we're not talking about that. We're talking about the extreme lengths to which teams and their personnel evaluators go. And I don't have the stomach to hear excuses about that right now.
All right, a couple of things here. I said I wasn't going to get mad anymore. I watched the opening night when they had the brackets for the greatest college basketball player of all time.
Oh, God.
And I don't know if I've been this truly upset on this show. And all of a sudden I saw where Zion moves on past Danny Manning. Shaq moves on.
Right, that was the night that got me.
But then Shaq over Lou Alcindor. Jerry West is a 13 seed. Maravich is a 13 seed. Trae Young had half a great season at Oklahoma. Like, what happened here?
These are the generations we've raised. There's 2 generations of people now who have no regard or interest in history. None.
We need to do a correction show. We need to let's just call it "Get Off My Lawn." Let's get off my lawn.
I'd be fine with get off. So it's so funny. Obviously, you and I have not talked since this started. So the night that, first of all, I'm just angry about it anyway. Don't put together a bracket that has women and men. Have a women's bracket, women's field, and a men's. Don't ask whether Cheryl Miller is better than Bill Walton or whatever. I mean, just don't do it. It's lazy. And I hated it. I hate it. And the night that Zion was advanced past Danny Manning, no one knows what Danny Manning did, Dan. So my son, all we've done since we've been in the same house for I don't know how many days, is fight about. It's been good. It's been fun. Is fight about sports and history. And he came to me in a proud moment yesterday on his 12th birthday. And he said, "Dad, I guess it's Madden he's playing. I don't know. I don't play any video games." He said, "Dad, if I have Deacon Jones on my defensive line," I go, "Yes." I just start screaming, "Yes, yes." How did you even come about his name? And he comes back to me later and he goes, "Okay, Dad, I get what you're saying. So if I have Joe Green and Deacon Jones," I go, yes. There's no plus yardage play against you if you have them. And I'm screaming at him because, the 70% of the time, or maybe not with him, he's pretty good at this age. But he'll come to me and say, "So is so-and-so going to the Hall of Fame?" And it's like, it's some player who I've almost forgotten about who just happens to play now. And we've got two generations of people who don't know anything, and they don't care. And you can't talk them out of it.
It's
They're not listening. They don't care about it. And Dan, it's not just sports. I guarantee you they don't know when World War One is. They'll just say, I don't care. I don't Spanish flu or whatever. That happened before I was born.
Well,
and it's so angering.
I have 3 daughters, so we don't talk sports. But when they talk music and they'll say, hey, Dad, I was wondering about Bowie. I get, yes, whatever you're wondering about. It's great. Hey, what's your favorite Zeppelin song? What? Yeah, all of them, just listen to them. One other thing I wanted to ask you about, and I brought this up a couple of weeks ago, I think. I was talking about the most impactful, I guess I was talking about Lou Alcindor, because he's the greatest college basketball player of all time. It's not even a question. And I said, there were a couple of impactful games in my life, college basketball games. Texas Western beating Kentucky. So you had your first all-black starting 5 with Don Haskins at Texas Western. Magic and Bird, but also Lou Alcindor against Elvin Hayes in the Astrodome. Those are the 3 games that I think have, and maybe I'm missing one, have had the biggest impact on the sport because the first all-black starting 5 wins the title against an all-white Kentucky team. Bird Magic, the highest-rated college basketball game. But basketball was in prime time in the Astrodome with Lou Alcindor against Elvin Hayes and the Houston Cougars. So is there another one you'd put in there? And if not, out of those 3?
Mine. I share that with you. I'm going to say the anniversary, I think it's today, Bill Walton, 21 of 22. Bill Walton, that game that he had, I'm going to put that up there.
But also Magic Bird is anniversary today.
Oh, wow. Well, that one, the first one, the one I mentioned, Walton, is less culturally impactful than the one you mentioned, which is why I'm with you on your selection of those 3. The Leitner, the Hilda-Leitner game it wasn't in the Final Four for one, but it doesn't have the cultural impact, although to me, that still has a certain importance, a certain glamour.
That's the best game ever played. That's the best college game ever played.
Yeah. I'll put that up there. Dan, what about the David Thompson game?
That was a semifinal game against UCLA.
It was a semi. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. It wasn't a time. And you know what else? I'll give you one other. And this is my privilege now. This is now for me being old. How about Villanova Georgetown?
I wasn't as surprised that Villanova won that as everybody else.
I wasn't as surprised either because they played 2 close games in the regular. I was a Georgetown beat writer that year.
Yeah.
And I covered every Georgetown game. And I remember before the game, we were getting the Washington put together a book on Georgetown's season immediately after. Like, stay up all night the next 2 nights you're going to be. And I called my editor just before the tip, and I said, so what happens when Villanova beats Georgetown? He goes, what are you talking about? And I said, do you realize that one of the games was like double overtime in the regular season, and the other game was like 3 points? And Villanova can win this game. And I was watching the games on the mothership before they used to play. That was a new thing. And I asked Ed Pinckney after the game, when did you really think you could beat Georgetown? He goes, I'm sitting around in the hotel, and I see the games we played. He's like, oh, my God, we nearly beat them twice. And it was the same feeling. Like, everybody called it the biggest upset except, there were hints that this wasn't going to be that necessarily a big upset. But yeah, I'm with you on those, Dan. Those are the Hall of Fame moments in college basketball, which if you think you know about the sport and you're not familiar with those, you need to shut up and go to YouTube or wherever you go and seek them out and learn about the moments that shaped college basketball.
It's good to talk to you. Keep yelling at people to get off your lawn, Mike.
It's good to hear your voice.
Thank you, Mike. That's Michael Wilbon, co-host, Pardon the Interruption. Of course, covers the NBA as well. Fritzi is cooking on the Traeger.
Smells delicious out there.
I believe during the live look-in, you're going to give people a tour and show them that you've
I
been?
am. Paulie's concerned. He sent me a message a few minutes ago. Who's manning the grill? Basically implying that the house can burn
Is your
down
wife?
since I'm in charge.
No. We don't believe that you're cooking. We believe your wife is.
I've been doing the whole thing myself. She is in the family room, and the kids are doing their schoolwork upstairs. This was all me. However good or bad it comes out, but I feel good about things. At least it smells the way I think it should.
Yes, Paulie.
Imagine the smell coming off that grill of hot dogs going through the neighborhood.
There may be something else in there besides hot dogs.
All right, we'll take a break. We got some Meat Madness songs to get to, but if you're watching on youtube.com/The Dan Patrick Show, Fritzi is our top chef, and he takes you back on his back porch for his grilling.
Scary.
What could go wrong? Back after this.
Yes, testing 1, 2, 3. How's that sound? Okay, we can go. Okay, we are walking through the office doors, through the living room. Quick shot of the upstairs steps. There you go. And we're coming around the bend, and we are in the family room. There's a little 3-season room outside. I'm curving around back towards the office. There's the setup right there. How about that? And now we are going to go out the door. See what's cooking, literally and figuratively. And there's the grill. There's the hot dog buns. Let's see what's going on in here. Oh, there we go. That's what I'm talking about. That we got some hot dogs going. We got some chicken going. I'm not sure how much longer I'm supposed to keep it on there before I burn it all together, but I'm excited. And we are going to have a nice feast, taking you around the backyard a little bit. Oh, that's a whole other story. I don't think it's done just yet. Oh, you just want to see me mess up with the tongs. Okay, we could do that. Hang on. Got the tongs, which I'm usually not very good at.
All the way through, Todd.
They're not ready just yet. Because I decided
Wait,
to add
you
chicken
had
to it.
3 hours.
I know. I started cooking it about a half hour ago, and then I realized that by adding the chicken, it just threw off all the times. But I think I know what I'm doing. I have it like at 275, and there it is. I know these tongs. They're not ready just yet, but they're getting there. But the chicken, I put some teriyaki sauce on it, and I put some garlic on it, and flip it over a little bit here.
Are you familiar with the word salmonella?
This is the best I can do.
Yeah, those aren't cooked all the way through there, Toddler.
Not yet. I think it's going to be a little while, but it's going to be a lovely lunch for the family, and I don't want to give anybody any kind of poison by eating raw meat. But we are going to get there. I think it's going to be good. I'm excited.
And
Trying not to burn myself as I close this.
that grill looks really new. How many times have you used that grill?
I have used that grill.
I'm going to say over under 5. I'm going under by 2.
I think the something in the over under of 3.5 would have been the way to go.
Okay. Yeah.
I think I've used it somewhere between 3 and 4 times.
Okay.
But this is going to be a special occasion, and we're going to have a meat Thursday, and I'm trying not to kill anybody. We do have to make sure the food is cooked, so we don't have to rush anybody to the hospital, and I want everybody to stay safe.
Okay.
Okay. I'm going to shut my phone off and then go back to my laptop.
Okay. Thanks, Todd.
Oh, yeah.
We have some new T-shirts up on the website, including Quarantine This, a couple of Tom Brady T-shirts, and we also have a special T-shirt that we're going to start this. Maybe it's later today, but we developed a T-shirt to help aid hourly and service industry workers who've been impacted by COVID-19, and it's just called Beer Here. That's the T-shirt. We have different colors. Team colors there. It just says Beer Here with a beer vendor there. Proceeds from the shirt will be donated to organizations helping people in the service industries who are currently unemployed or underemployed because of this pandemic. So go to the website, and those proceeds will go to the organizations helping out those who work at the arenas and the stadiums. Dale Jr. joins us on the program tomorrow. Andrew in Nebraska joins us. We'll sneak you in here, Andrew. What's on your mind?
Hey, Dan, 605-215, first time, long time. I'm going to say the 90s Nebraska team.
That was a pretty good run there. Tom Osborne had one of my favorite college football players of all time, Tommy Frazier, who should be in the conversation of greatest college quarterbacks of all time. Yeah. Thanks for all the contributions today, whether it was emails, tweets, or the phone calls as well. A lot of fun today. And Fritzi, thank you for the tour of your house and your grill.
My pleasure. I enjoyed it.
What did you learn today, Todd?
I learned, sorry, Scott Boras, you really don't need baseball on December 26th.
No, I don't think so. McLovin, what did you learn today?
Rick Neuheisel says Herbert and Tua gone by 4.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised with Herbert going that high, but it's what happens comes draft time. Seton O'Connor.
America has really let you down, and you're still not over it.
God.
Just get the damn voting right.
I know.
Greatest college player of all time.
Help me. Help me help you. Paulie, what did you learn today?
In 6 years, Todd has made 8 hot dogs total. That's it on his Traeger grill.
Todd, what did I learn today?
A source texted you last night thinking statuesque in the pocket lately Tom Brady may not play that many games.
Yeah, you want to know the over-under on how many games. Thanks for joining us. We'll do it again tomorrow. A Traeger Meat Friday. Paulie's cooking.
Yeah.